Alright guys, I know it's been a while, but today I'm putting my S2000 back to stock exhaust. And then while I'm working on this thing, I'm going to explain to you why it seems like every single car I get, I always put them back to stock. This is my 2006 S2000 with 33,000 miles on it. So when I got this car, it originally had Olin suspension on it, which I took off and put the factory suspension that I bought for like $100. The only other mods are fuel injectors and exhaust, and it's got a Burke high flow cat to a Burke cat back. And this is my favorite exhaust for S2000s. It sounds the best, hands down. It's also a decently cheap exhaust system at under $600 brand new. So that's not too bad of a price. So especially if you buy them used, I've seen them for like $300 or less. The fuel injectors, they have this little jumper harness, but they're like 1100s or something, and I'm gonna swap those out when I do the radiator hoses and radiator, just so I'll do all the engine-based stuff together. And I also need to bring my laptop to flash the car back to stock and take the Honda out of it. But it is fairly stock. You can see over here, there's a bung welded on the pan for a turbo. It was turboed for like less than 1,000 miles and then put back to stock. And this is not an 06 intake because it has this for the air pump right there. But that doesn't matter. That's minor. Let's get it jacked up and let's get that exhaust out. So the exhaust is all out and the high flow cat is one piece with the cat back. I thought they were two separate pieces, but not on this system. But it has like 1,000 miles on it, if that, so it's basically new. Here's the OEM cat I have to put back on, and I gotta go get my cat back. It's in the woods. I'm gonna attach the cat to the cat back first, and then slide it under and put it together as one piece. Because this is a donut flange, so it'll sit angled, because the bolts have springs on them. So I just want it all hung up before I tighten this down and sit it at that angle. The exhaust is hanging there now. Some advice I can give is WD-40 on the hanger so they easily go on, and start from the very back on one side and put the other side on a jack so it's lifted up, and then get that side on, then do this side, and then work your way forward. So now I just have to put the O2 sensor in and bolt it on right there. There's a support that goes on the back that ties in this side to the other side. Just got to put that back on, and then I can drop the car, and the exhaust is done. It took me 30 minutes. It is all buttoned up underneath. I'm going to do a quick start just to make sure there's no exhaust leaks and see how it sounds, which it will be quiet. Now it's back to stock and quiet. Alright, so now that the car is almost back to stock, I can tell you why I bring cars back to stock. So I've been buying cars for a while now, a few years, not too long, about 5-6 years maybe. And I've had a lot of cars with a lot of different modifications and a lot of different setups and stuff. What I've learned from having so many cars is that cars sell better when they're stock, and they're typically worth more when they're stock. Now, if you have a full build of something, then it's probably worth more than a stock one. But bolt-ons and stuff like that, simple stuff, stock normally sells better and is worth more. Whenever I find a car, it has to be a decent price, and then I go from there. Then I look what modifications does it have. If they're junk modifications, then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make any money off of those. But like this car, it had Olin's, it had a roll bar, and it had wheels, and the exhaust, the injectors, Honda, so that's all stuff that's worth a decent amount when you sell just the part. And the stock stuff is pretty cheap to buy, besides the catalytic converters, of course. That's one way to look at it. It's all just like a cost thing. Another thing is cars typically drive better when they're stock, depending on how they're tuned and stuff. You can have fully built stuff, and it drives great. It's just all in the tune really. But a lot of the cars that I buy, the tunes need like a touch up or something, so it's easier to put it back to stock, stock map, and it's going to run perfect. I did that with my Evos and stuff like that, the Evo 10s. The Evo 8s, they're kind of harder to do because every single one of them has like all the emission stuff deleted and everything like that. All the original vacuum lines are gone. Everything on those have been messed with, so those are a bit harder to do. But cars like this, where nobody really touches the emission stuff, they just like put an exhaust or like a turbo kit or a supercharger kit. It's easy bolt-on stuff. These are easier to bring back to stock and just flash it back to stock. Boom, it's running great again. So it all basically has to do with the cost. And then when I sell the cars, it gives them like a second life as a stock car, where, these cars are, all the cars that I'm into, everybody's into, so everyone modifies them. So they're getting really hard to find stock examples and stuff. So if I bring them back to stock and sell them, boom, somebody has a stock example that you never would have thought you would have gotten or something like that. So back to the cost, the stock parts are usually pretty cheap. Like the Evo 10 intercoolers that I normally buy are like $40, hardly anything. Whereas the upgraded ones, I'm selling them for like $300-400. So it's a big cost difference in that sense. Or, Evo turbos, the stock ones are like, you can find them for $200, $300. Upgraded turbos, $1,500. I sold the whole turbo kit for $4,000, and I put a stock one on for $500 total. So it's a huge, you could get a huge profit just off of selling the parts. So that's why I do it, and it's what I love to do. I love to take a car that may not be running the best, and it has a bunch of nice parts on it or something, but yeah, it's just not running the best. And rather than sinking money into it, getting it tuned, stuff like that, you flash it back to stock for free, get the stock parts, and then you have a perfectly running driving car. Some cases low mileage like this, 33,000 miles. My Evo 10, the white one, that had a full turbo kit and everything, fuel system, all that. And then I put it back to stock, and it was a 50,000 mile Evo example that's in really good shape. It's just nowadays, all these kids are getting these cars where they just want to mod it, and they don't think about the consequences of modding it per se. Reliability goes down with mods, or it can go down. It can be very reliable still, but you put engine mounts on it that are stiffer, it's gonna rattle like crazy. So you do a louder exhaust, it's gonna drone, stuff like that. So they don't think about that. They put all these mods into a car, and then they don't like driving the car because it's rough. It's rough to drive. I've had cars where they're rough to drive, but you put stock stuff back on or better quality stuff sometimes or whatever, and you get that driver's enjoyment back. So these people, I'm not just going to say kids because it happens through all ages, I guess, but these people, they get these cars and then they destroy them in a sense because they're just doing all these mods. They're losing their money. They're putting time into the car, and then they're making it something they hate in the long run, so then they just dump it. They want to get rid of it. They've had enough. And then, it's going to take time and money to put it back to where it was, but in the end, you can sink $500 into it, and then all the parts you take off and sell those for $3,000-4,000. So you got to be smart with it. You got to learn the modifications. Like on my Evo, when I was bringing that back to stock, I was having an issue with it not starting. When I put everything back together, I was like, what is going on? And then I finally realized the fuel lines were switched because it had a -8 line for fuel feed, -6 or -8, and they used the original fuel feed as the return for that aftermarket setup because the fuel feed is larger than the fuel return. So I had them reversed. So I swapped them and boom, started right up. So, there's some things you have to learn about the mods that were done because sometimes they require stuff like that. So there is a good amount of research I've had to do for these cars. I've had a Miata where it wasn't starting. Turns out for this 1 year, for a few months, they used a different ECU. So I had to find that specific ECU and plugged it in, boom, started right up. So there is a bunch of research and it's a bunch of time, but it's what I love to do. And I hope some of you guys start doing this. If you find a good deal with something modified, put it back to stock, make it fun to drive, make it reliable, and just enjoy the car. I'll leave you guys with one more story. I had an Evo 8. Me and my friend flew to Chicago to go pick it up, and we drove it back in one night. And it ran okay. You know, it needed some touch-ups here and there, but it was pretty good. No rust, clean. And yeah, it was just a solid one to start messing with a little bit and just get it perfect and drive. And I wanted more power. So I did GSC S3 cams, and I did a 6266. I originally had a 5858 for it, which would have been perfect. But I went to the 6266, and I did a whole bunch of mods, and I got it tuned, and it just didn't run too good because of the huge cams, and it was on stock ECU still, so it was just rough to drive, and I didn't like it. So I posted it for sale. I just wanted it gone, and then nobody wanted it. After like 3 months, I got tired of it. I was like, all right, I'm taking it down. I got tired of all the people not coming, say they're going to buy it, not coming, or just wasting my time. So I took it down, and I was like, all right, I want to build it how I know it will be fun and perfect. So Evo 9 turbo on it cost me like $300, and then downsized the injectors, put 272 cams in it that I got for like $200, and took the valve train out, all the springs and retainers. I just put the stock stuff back in because they'll handle it. And yeah, I just took like everything off. I went from a nice catch can and valve cover setup. I found a valve cover for like $100 with dash 10s welded in, and I got an eBay catch can because it works. And I did that, and I made the bay very nice. Like, it was my first real like build, and I made the bay pretty nice, you know, for me learning everything, and got it tuned, ran perfect. Was super fun. The car also had a built drivetrain, so I could launch it and not really worry about it. It had triple disc clutch. I didn't like the triple disc clutch because of the noise, but it grabbed, and you know, you didn't have to worry about your clutch, so it was okay. I took out the leather seats because I didn't like the leather seats. I put cloth seats in. So everything that I took out was worth like a good amount, and I got $200 cloth seats, and you know, I just got everything for cheap and put all that stuff in and got it tuned on flex fuel. And yeah, it was perfect. It was great. And then I sold that. I posted it. I had it for sale for like a week. I listed it for more than when I had it with the 62, 66 and all that. I listed it for more and sold within a week. And yeah, I was just like, man, if when I originally got this car, if I skipped over all the mods that I spent money on, I didn't really lose any money because I made some on the car, and with all the stuff I parted out, I broke even essentially. But I learned from that. I was like, if I just skipped all that, if I just directly Evo 9 turbo cams, flex fuel, and that's basically all I really needed. And it would have been the best build. I would have probably kept the car for longer from the get-go, but I already had other cars that I bought. I had a GTR as well that I was like replacing it with. So that's why I sold that. I had another Evo actually. I had a stock Evo 8 that I just liked driving more because it was stock and it drove nice. So I had a stock Evo 8 and a R32 GTR that I kept instead of that one. But once that one was done, I was like, man, I kind of wish I kept that one. I built it to like how I knew it would be great, and it was. But it taught me that, you know, if you spend your life modifying cars, you're gonna lose money. In a world where everybody's pushing for power and stuff, it's just more enjoyable to build something that you know you would like more. So that's all I gotta say about that. If you guys have any questions or have any other points you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments, and I can give my input on it and hopefully give you guys some advice.
It's funny how when you say no, everybody start acting different. I had to get rid of all of my old girls, cause them girls was nothing but past addictions. Draining me out of my energy. I'm not the one for the ass kissing. She tried to take all my bag, nigga, but no, I am not that slipping.